This is the video tutorial for coloring your phylum Arthropoda diagram. I've started by outlining the exoskeleton. The exoskeleton covers the body of the arthropod, so it is very hard to color in the exoskeleton everywhere, so I've only outlined parts that I know won't be obscured when I do a different feature in a different color. So starting with class Insecta, our typical one is a grasshopper, so you can pause here and outline your grasshopper. The second class is the arachnid, a typical spider. And the final class is crustacea, which is a crayfish, also a typical crustacean. Okay, so there's the exoskeletons mostly outlined. So the next part of the body that we're going to fill in is the head and thorax, or the cephalothorax. So if it is a grasshopper, it is the head and thorax. So in this case, I'm coloring the grasshopper's head, the thorax here. Oh, actually highlighted right here on my picture. Okay, so that's my grasshopper. Okay, on the spider, the arachnid, it is fused to form a cephalothorax. So that's this part here, my arachnid. And on my crayfish, it's the hard part of the shell is sometimes called the carapace. So that is part of the cephalothorax here. And its head is in here. And this is part of the cephalothorax. Okay. Our next external feature is going to be the abdomen. Put light pink here. On our grasshopper, here's highlighted for us. So this area down here, the abdomen tends to be segmented in most arthropods. And I see a little piece of thorax that I've missed, so I'm just going back with this part here. This part on top here is a wing, so that's could be colored in your exoskeleton color. We'll see if we get to different appendages later if we need to color that. Okay, so abdomen. Okay, and there. Okay, on my arachnid, abdomen's very easy to find, pronounced, easy to color in on this picture. And on my crayfish, this is the tail end, usually most commonly seen as the lobster part that you eat. And that's the abdomen there. And I'm stopping before the tail. These parts here that I don't have any color on, well, they're actually highlighted in orange for the exoskeleton. The uropods and the telson, those are for swimming, little flipper ends at the end of the tail. Next, we'll have our jointed appendages. So there are lots on all arachnids. So arachnid actually stands for jointed, which is, arthropod, which is jointed appendage. So not the arachnid, the arthropod. So jointed is arthro. Easy to remember if you think arthritis, like when you have inflammation of your joints, and appendages is pod, kind of like foot. Okay, we could color in lots of part of our arthropods here. We can color in all the legs. We can color in the wings. And the antennae are part of the nervous system, generally considered mouth with specialized mouth parts, so I'm going to leave those off the appendage coloring. Okay, on our spider, you can see this one's got all sorts of bands, so easy to find the jointed appendages here. I'm just going to fill those in quickly. Okay, and I'm leaving the front piece there. Those will go into specialized mouth parts later. And then on my crustacean, I've got these two front pinchers, which are called chilipeds. They're used to protect and catch food. And I've got all of my walking legs down here at my crayfish. And I've also got my Arthorpods and telson. Those are able to move a little bit like a fan to assist with swimming. And the last piece of our external diagram is the specialized mouth parts. I'm going to do those in pink. Okay, so these things, jaws, palps, kind of in there. Okay, on our spider, we have jaws and pedipalps. There's lots of different names for insect mouth parts. And down here on our crayfish, they're not really labeled well on this crayfish, but there's lots of little mouth parts and feelers down here for catching and chewing food. Okay, now we'll move on to our internal crayfish. So our internal systems, before we begin, I'll highlight for you here that it asks you to cross out labels we're not using or covering in the lab, and I have also added a few to explain some of the organs, so digestive gland and large intestine, so if you need to pause and write those in on your labels. And the crayfish has quite a few, so pause your video here and do quite a bit of crossing out and add the more common name for some of these organs. Okay, for coloring, I'm trying to keep with standard biology coloring. Generally, digestion system in textbooks is often shown in green. So we're going to start here with our mouth and our esophagus, the crop for storing food, and the gizzard for grinding food. And the gastric ceca is a digestive type gland. And we come down here through our stomach. And rectum and anus, so digestive, digestive, digestive. Okay, on to our crayfish. I'm going to start over here with our mouth and our esophagus. First part is the cardiac stomach, so this is like the first piece of the crayfish's stomach, mostly for food storage. Just coloring around these arteries, they'll be red later. And then the second piece down here, the pyloric stomach, it's down this section, so this is the second part of the crayfish's stomach. Okay, that's going to all connect into our intestines, so this area here, continuing down the back of the tail, commonly seen looking like a black vein down the back of a prawn or a lobster tail, that's your intestine. Okay, to the anus. And we also need to include our digestive gland here. Hepatopancreas. Hepato means liver, and pancreas is pancreas, so that's just part of things to help with digestion. In grade 11, we often just refer to that as digestive gland. Okay, our next will be circulation in red. So this will be heart and the main arteries. So up here, these are dorsal blood vessels. So this area up here, this is its heart and main artery, and the blood vessel is dorsal, and it continues down the back of our grasshopper. Oh, I see a label I missed here. Intestine there should be green. I'll catch any of those missing labels at the end. And if we go to our crayfish, okay, we have the ostium and the heart. The ostiums are actually the holes, and they're dorsal abdominal arteries. So I'm going to actually start by coloring that one in. Branches off into each segment. Again, it's a dorsal artery, so on the back of the crayfish, shown, you can see it as a black line down the tail of your lobster or your prawn. These are arteries going to parts of the head. I'm going to try not to color over my ostia here. So crayfish have open circulation, so do grasshoppers. So they have an ostia, which is a hole in the top of their heart, so that when blood is pumped around by those big arteries into spaces in the body, it can flow back into the heart. Okay, now that's blood. So respiration in blue. I don't know if we're going to see them on the grasshopper. I'm going to have to go up to the external diagram and show you this. This place here called spiracles, these little holes, these are for respiration in the grasshopper. They allow it to bring oxygen into its body. And they connect to a system of tubules to transport oxygen. And in our crayfish, the respiration is the gills. They're not drawn on this one because they cover everything, so I'm just going to show you where they are. They're right here, close to the legs, under the carapace, and they're very feathery so that they have lots of surface area. So the gills, when you actually dissect a crayfish, cover up most of the internal parts of the crayfish. Okay, nervous system in yellow. I'll just use yellow highlighter, it's easiest. Okay, we're really looking for brain and our ventral nerve cord. Now on this grasshopper, it's all black in color. There we go. Brain and ventral nerve cord, those are the main parts there. And on our crayfish, brain here, which is this piece. And again, the ventral nerve cord is done with this black part, and there are lumps along the nerve cord, which are ganglia. Ganglia, remember, are just a bundle of nerves. And excretion, I'm going to go with orange. Both of these organisms have different excretory organs. The grasshopper is called the Malpighian tubules. They have an unusual name that we haven't heard before. And the crayfish has something called the green gland for excretion, and it is kind of greenish when you see it. It's this big thing up here by its head. It's in a funny spot as far as kidneys go. Okay, and then reproduction in pink or blue. I'll be using pink, as I've already used blue for respiration. Ovaries would be a reproductive part here. And down here, this part there, the ovary is here. Both of these are female drawings. This one is shown drawn as eggs. And there's one last thing I've missed on this bottom diagram. It has a descending ventral artery down here. The bodies of these crayfish, crabs, lobsters can get quite large, so they have a second artery down there. That's red, and I think that takes care of everything. Something else we can highlight here for the nervous system, just to remind you that the eye is part of the nervous system as well. Same with the grasshopper. Also parts of the nervous system are the antennas, so if I can see my antennas and antennules, it's a good idea to highlight those in there. Okay, that should pretty much cover your coloring project.